Good morning. 450 people at a breakfast. Are you kidding me? Every time Ed throws a party, people show up, which is one of the reasons I got involved. And actually, it's pronounced Oregon. Let's get that right. And truth be told, it was really, I grew up in, I tell people, a small town just west of Worcester, Congressman, in a small town called Beaverton, Oregon, and learned community at an early age. I'm the oldest of 8 children, 5 boys and 3 girls. 4 of us played in the National Football League, which is still a record, I think. But imagine growing up in that family where, we had to flip the coin to see who milked the cow at 5 a.m. so the family could have milk on the deal. It was, I learned team, I learned community, and I learned that each of us had role and responsibility to make it happen. My father never served in the military, sir, but he used the same traits and disciplines as you to raise this troop of all of us. It was a lot of fun growing up in that community. It was a lot of fun playing professional football. At an early age, I set a goal to make that happen, and accidentally it did. The New England Patriots recognized me in '76 and said, "Why don't you come up here to Boston and play?" It took me about 3 years to learn how you people speak. The R's and the A's really threw me a lot, but yet, coming from the West Coast, coming from the mountain region of the Rockies and Colorado, and growing up a little more country than the metropolitan areas of the East Coast, somehow I felt integrated into this community when I was playing here, and never more so than in 1985 when your New England Patriots won their first trip to a Super Bowl. Do you guys remember that? A lot of times I'm asked to speak in front of youth organizations, and I retired before most of them even were born, so I like the fact that there's some platinum blondes out there in the audience that remember those days. But in 1985, no one expected us to do anything. We did. We expected to get there. We expected to be there, and by God, we did. And what was really neat was to watch this community of New England, as big and as large as I thought it was, and as sports-minded as it had been with the success of the Celtics and the almost success of the Red Sox. This community embraced us. But what was really fun was the fact that we had to play all of those playoff games on the road and come back home to now these burgeoning crowds that suddenly woke up one morning and said, "Our Patriots just won a playoff game in New York. I hate the Jets." Let's see if I can get this one. I hate the Colts. I hate the... Anyway, it was the first road playoff victory in Patriot history. In 1985, that was the 25th anniversary of the New England Patriots, the first time they won a playoff game on the road, and we did it in New York. Then we got to go to Los Angeles and win out there. Then the Orange Bowl, the AFC Championship game. And every time we won on the road and came home, we landed at TF Green Airport, and the crowds grew from our families saying, "Thanks, way to go, Dad," to when we landed after the AFC Championship game in Miami. It was about, I don't know, it was 2 o'clock in the morning when we got back from that. There were 50,000 fans on the tarmac at Providence. In fact, our plane could not get to the jetway. It stopped in the middle of the ramp, let us down in the back stairs, and the buses were amongst the crowd. I'll never forget that as long as I live. We spent 3 days back here in New England getting ready before we went down to New Orleans to play in that game. And if you had a pulse, if you had a heartbeat in New England, you talked about one thing, and that was your New England Patriots going to a Super Bowl. And the way this community embraced us made it that much more special that when I retired, I stayed here. I happened to say to Ed one day, "I'd sure like to get involved in something around here, Ed. What do you got for me?" And 5 years later, we've, I think, made a tremendous impact with our integration initiative. One thing that we embraced about the integration initiative was the fact that it was a Hockomock area initiative. It wasn't a nationwide program. This is something that this community of the Hockomock area needed and wanted for its community, its citizens, and its participants. We've done, I think, a great job, a tremendous job. Again, it was one of those, you know, Hurley's throwing a party, everybody shows up type of things. But to see how that event has grown and burgeoned into what it is and we're so proud of now has been tremendous to be part of it. Just the fact that kids, I don't care from what walk of life, from where they are physically, mentally, or anyone, all kids have an opportunity to get involved and be involved and stay involved with the Hockomock Area YMCA. It's been tremendous to watch that event grow. This event, at our event this last year, which was our 4th annual, and I think even though the economy has suffered and so has a lot of people, corporations and companies, but our sponsors stepped up and the people that participated in that event, and it was our best event ever from a standpoint of raising funds. And I thank each and every one of you that were probably there. All of you get to go to the Hurley parties all the time, but that was tremendous to see that happen this year. This year, Mike McGuire, whose daughter Allie participates in the Integration Initiative, summed up the important role that the Y plays in bringing our community together. Mike said, "The voice of parents in the world of special education is so often unheard, but that's not the case at the YMCA. We as parents have to fight for everything our children need, and at the Y we don't have to fight. When everything is hard, the Y is easy." And it's just because of that sense of community through Ed's leadership that embraces anyone in need. And it's very powerful to get that kind of recognition or accolade from a parent whose child has actually been impacted by this whole thing. So there's 450 people here. I expect each and every one of you at the 5th annual. You can sign up to participate. Just call the Y, but whatever you do, don't say to Ed, put me to work, I'll volunteer for it. Well, actually do that. I encourage you to do that. I encourage you to get involved. If you do mention that to Ed, be ready for a very, very special ride. There's been a few things that have changed and impacted my life. The birth of my children, winning the AFC Championship game. We'll talk about the Super Bowl at a different deal. But, and I think in particular, my involvement in community, and particularly with the Hockomock YMCA. Ed, I thank you for allowing me to be involved in all of that. I'm humbled by making that happen. So I challenge each and every one of you, if you can write a check, great. If you can volunteer, even better. But get involved in your community. You will change lives. And with the Hockomock, it's changed my life. You will change lives, and maybe, in fact, you will change your own. Get involved, stay involved. Thank you very much for having me, Ed. And I guess I'll stay involved a little bit longer.